All right, welcome back. In this video, I'm going to go over Google Workspace gotchas, as in gotchas for creating service users in Google Workspace. It turns out there are quite a few gotchas, and almost all of these gotchas result in the same error. Your Google Workspace service user will have read access to all of your meeting rooms, your resource calendars, but it won't have write access. And in Google Workspace, when we connect through the service user to your resource calendar via API, we need write permissions to make updates to events on your calendar. This allows for instant reservations, ending a meeting early, or extending a meeting. All right, so like I said, the first two permissions are very easy to get. Most of the time when you're setting up your service user and you create resource mailboxes, you will not have to do anything after you create a service user. You will just have read permissions, and you'll also have permission to list all of the resource calendars under your account. And this will get you through the wizard in admin.meetingroom365.com to add your service user, to list displays, list calendars, and then you create displays, and you'll get through all of that just fine without worrying about any of this. But once you set up your displays, they won't have write access to your calendar, and there'll be a few features that don't work. And we get the error message from Google, error, writer access not enabled for this account. There's a couple of ways to resolve that. One is, if you're in a small organization, sometimes you set it up, your existing super admin creates the resource mailboxes, and that also becomes your service user. That will work because your super admin role is the only role in Google Workspace that has access to write to all the calendars in your account. You go in to create a custom role, there is no option available to create a custom role or pick a different role that includes access on the granular permissions level to write to a calendar. People have been complaining about this ever since they made that change. It turns out there's one workaround, but it's kind of ridiculous. If you buy a $250 a month license to use Google Meet hardware, even if you don't have Google Meet hardware, that option will magically appear in Google Admin console to add a granular permission to a service user to write to all calendars in your account or write to all resource calendars in your account. Most of our customers will not pick that option because it's kind of ridiculous. So the other two options are, when you create your service user, you need to immediately make it a super admin. That way it has access to write to calendars in your account. It's a little scary, but what I would say is turn on 2FA instead of strong password. You will see the granular permissions that we're granted when you connect it to Meeting Room 365. So although that user does have a lot of permissions, and it would be nice to scope that down, it is scoped down at the level where we connect to that service user. We basically only have access to read and write to calendars and to, I believe, read a list of users. You can find that in our help article. I say immediately assign it a super admin role because apparently it can take up to 2 weeks to convert it to a super admin if you've assigned it another role. I've tested it out. I can't confirm that it does take 2 full weeks, but it is not immediate. It doesn't happen within a day. If you assign it a limited admin role and then try to reassign it a super admin role, it will not have calendar write permission. I am going off of blog posts and help articles. And I have faith that eventually it does get all those permissions, but it is not quick, it is not instant, and it is probably going to mean that you just delete that user and create a new service user and immediately assign it a super admin role. The alternative is, if you have a service user who is not a super admin, you can individually, as a different super admin, go in, add all of your resource calendars to your super admin account, and then you'll be able to individually add the service user give them permission from each one of those calendars settings page. The trick is, there's not actually a page in Google Workspace Admin Console to list all of your resource calendars. There is, but it doesn't let you go to the settings page. If you want to go to the settings page, you have to add it to your My Calendars list, and then you can go into the settings and update permissions one by one for each one of your resource calendars. And those are the things I'm going to demonstrate right now. So this is our demo tenant. I have a bunch of different rooms. In this scenario, I have a service user who is not a super admin. And here I am a super admin. If you go to calendar.google.com, you can use the account switcher to sign in to calendar.google.com as both your super admin and your service user. And what you will notice is, in my super admin account, all of my resource mailboxes appear under My Calendars. Anything under My Calendars has read and write permissions for that user. For my service user, it appears under Other Calendars. Other calendars will only have read permissions unless it's explicitly granted write permission from the settings menu. Now, for both of these accounts, I added my resource calendars to my Google Calendar page in the exact same way. I went to Browse Resources. Let me show you that again. The plus sign is under Other Calendars. There's no longer one under My Calendars. And I go to Browse Resources. This was added in the last year or two, this entire page. You just check all of your resource calendars. If you're in a scenario where you have resources somehow that you're not setting up, you obviously don't have to check them. But if you check all of your resource calendars, they will appear under My Calendars or Other Calendars, depending on whether you're a super admin or not. Once you've done that as your super admin, you can go into that calendar individually and go to the settings and sharing page. There's an option here called Share with Specific People or Groups, and you can add your service user and change your permissions to make changes to events. That's the write permission. This also is a write permission, but this is the write permission you need. Either one of these. You can pick either one of these. Make changes to events. Once you add that, you can go to your next one, do the same thing. You basically need to do that for every single resource mailbox, resource calendar. Now, it does not actually move to the My Calendars list. It may eventually if my permissions updates to super admin, but I wouldn't depend on that. You can do the same thing here. Go to browse resources. You can add all of these to your my calendars page. Sorry, my calendars list. And then you should be good to go. Whenever I test it, as soon as I share with specific peoples or groups, even if my service user is not a super admin, I'm immediately able to make changes to events. You can see here, I'll extend meeting, and it updated the event, it changed the end time, it incremented it by 15 minutes. It's reading events, everything's working as I would expect it to do. And this occurred as soon as I updated this setting and allowed it write access to the calendar. Let's see. That should be all you need to know. Basically, as my service user, I am not able to modify admin roles. I'm not able to write to calendars, but if you share the calendar directly with your service user, you can get around that restriction. If you have any questions, reach out to support. I will convert this into a help desk article or a blog post in the future, but reach out to support if you have any questions. Thanks for watching.